The first time my sister-in-law used the name of a baby I had miscarried, my family called it an unfortunate coincidence. By the third time, coincidence was no longer possible. Then, when I became pregnant again, she stopped stealing from my grief and tried to make sure my fourth child never drew a breath. I didn't understand that last part when I stood in my mother's backyard 6 years earlier, holding a gift bag full of pink onesies. My sister-in-law, Vanessa, tapped a spoon against her lemonade glass and waited for everyone at the baby shower to quiet down. She stood beneath a garland of paper roses, one hand curved over her stomach, looking every inch the glowing mother-to-be. "We finally chose her name," she announced. "Lillian Rose. We're going to call her Lily." Everyone applauded. I couldn't move. 4 months earlier, my husband, Grant, and I had sat on the floor of our unfinished nursery after losing our daughter at was 11 weeks. We had named her Lily because the lilies in my father's garden had been blooming when I found out I was pregnant. Grant built a small cedar box for her ultrasound photograph and hospital bracelet, and we planted white lilies along our back fence. Only my mother knew. I looked toward her now. She was clapping beside the cake table, smiling through tears. Vanessa found my eyes across the yard. For half a second, the sweetness left her face. What replaced it wasn't guilt. It was satisfaction. After the guests began leaving, I found her alone near the patio, arranging unopened gifts into neat piles. "Vanessa, you knew that was our daughter's name." Her hands stopped on a package of diapers, then she turned and her eyes immediately filled. "You're accusing me of stealing a baby name? I'm asking why you chose the one name I told Mom was private." Her voice rose just enough to bring people back from the driveway. "I've loved Lily since I was a teenager. I can't believe you're doing this at my shower." My brother, Caleb, hurried over. My mother followed him. "Rachel," Mom said under her breath, "this isn't the time." Vanessa pressed both hands over her stomach as if I had threatened her physically. "You don't get to claim every pretty name because you almost had a baby." Almost the word landed harder than if she had shouted. I stared at her. "We did have a baby." Vanessa's expression sharpened. "Not a real one." Caleb looked at the ground. My mother took me gently by the elbow and steered me away. "It's a common name," she whispered. "Please don't turn this into a family war." Grant was waiting beside our car. He took one look at my face and opened the passenger door without asking what had happened. On the drive home, I told him everything. He kept both hands on the steering wheel. "Your mother told her." "I know." And Vanessa knew exactly what she was doing. I know that too. At home, I sat beside the lilies until the porch light switched itself off. Grant stayed nearby without speaking. That was one of the things I loved most about him. He never treated silence as an empty space he needed to fill. I was 28 then, and had been a pediatric nurse at Franklin Children's Hospital in Columbus for 7 years. I was used to frightened parents, screaming toddlers, emergency codes, and doctors giving news nobody wanted to hear. At work, I knew how to remain calm. Inside my own family, calmness had become a weakness everyone used against me. My mother, Diane, wasn't intentionally cruel. She was generous with meals, birthdays, rides to appointments, and every detail anyone entrusted to her. She believed sharing information created closeness. She also believed that the person who objected most loudly must be the person in the greatest pain. Vanessa understood that instinct almost immediately. She had married Caleb 3 years before the shower. At first, I liked her. She was attentive, funny, and extraordinarily good at making people feel chosen. She remembered birthdays and coffee orders. She volunteered at Mom's church fundraiser and stayed late to clean up. But she also measured relationships like territory. At her wedding, while we hugged in the reception line, she whispered, "Everything that belongs to the Carters belongs to me now." I thought she meant she was happy to join our family. Years later, I understood she had meant it literally. 2 years after losing Lily, I became pregnant with a boy. At 14 weeks, an ultrasound showed that his heart had stopped. Grant and I named him Owen after my father's middle name. We planted blue salvia beside the lilies and placed another photograph in the cedar box. At 2 in the morning, exhausted and desperate to hear my mother's voice, I called her. I told her the name and made her promise not to repeat it. 8 months later, Vanessa gave birth to her second child. Caleb called from Riverside Methodist Hospital and asked us to come meet our nephew. Grant didn't want to go, but I couldn't punish a newborn for the adults around him. Vanessa was sitting upright in bed when we arrived, her hair brushed and her makeup perfect. She held the baby out to me. "Meet Owen." I looked at Caleb. He seemed nervous but not surprised. Vanessa smiled. "It suits him, doesn't it?" I handed the baby back before my arms betrayed me. In the hallway, Caleb caught up with us. "Rachel, please don't make this a thing." "A thing?" "It's a name." Vanessa said she's always liked it. "Did Mom tell her?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "Mom might have mentioned it, but nobody owns a name." Grant stepped between us. "That isn't the point." Caleb's face tightened. "I have a wife who just gave birth and a sister looking for a fight. What exactly do you want me to do?" I wanted him to know me well enough to recognize that I wasn't looking for a fight. I wanted my mother to protect something after promising she would. I wanted Vanessa to admit she had chosen the name because hurting me made her feel powerful. Instead, I said, "Nothing," and walked away. Our third loss came 18 months later. This time, I told no one except Grant. We named the baby Claire. A week after the procedure, Mom arrived unannounced with chicken soup. She found me at the dining table with the cedar box open. 3 ultrasound photographs lay beside 3 hospital bracelets. "Did you name this baby too?" she asked. I should have lied, but grief makes children of us. And she was still my mother. Claire. Mom held me while I cried. She swore she would keep the name private. Vanessa announced her 3rd pregnancy before the end of the year. When the baby was born, the family group chat filled with photographs and one message from her. "Welcome to the world, Claire Elise." Grant found me sitting on the laundry room floor with my phone in my hand. "That's all 3, I said. He crouched beside me. "We're done pretending." I confronted my mother the next morning. She didn't deny telling Vanessa, but she insisted there had been no malice. She asked whether you'd named the baby. I thought she wanted to send flowers. "And Lily?" She heard me talking to Aunt Sharon. "Owen? I might have mentioned that one at Christmas. Mom, every time I give you something private, you hand it to her. She's family. So am I." Mom's shoulders dropped. For a moment, I thought she finally understood. Then she said, "Those are living children, Rachel. Do you want them growing up believing their aunt hates them because of their names?" That ended the conversation. I adored my niece and nephews. Lily was fearless and affectionate. Owen asked questions faster than anyone could answer them. Little Claire laughed whenever Grant sneezed. They hadn't chosen their names, and I refused to make them carry their mother's decisions. So I stayed present. I attended birthdays, brought Christmas gifts, and sat through family dinners. Vanessa interpreted my restraint as surrender. Then, at 34, I became pregnant again. Grant stared at the test on our bathroom counter and sat down on the edge of the bathtub. "We don't tell anyone," I said. He nodded. "Not until you're ready." I told my obstetrician and my closest friend, Maya, who worked with me at the hospital. That was all. For 9 weeks, the pregnancy progressed normally. Then I became sick during dinner at Mom's house and barely reached the bathroom. When I returned, Mom was already crying. "You're pregnant." I should have denied it, but my silence answered for me. By the end of the week, Vanessa announced that she was pregnant too. She made the announcement at another Sunday dinner, smiling directly at me. "Our babies will be only a few months apart." Isn't that incredible? Caleb looked happier than I had seen him in years. Mom clasped her hands as if someone had given her matching grandchildren for Christmas. Vanessa reached across the table and touched my wrist. "Have you picked a name?" "We're not discussing names. Not even with family?" "Especially not with family." Her smile held, but her eyes changed. Over the following weeks, she found new ways to ask. She brought baby name cards to dinner. She sent lists by text. She claimed Lily wanted to know what to call her new cousin. When none of that worked, she reminded me that I had years of unused names. Grant nearly left the table. I squeezed his hand beneath it. On the drive home, I told him I wanted to conduct a simple test. I would give my mother 2 invented names and tell no one else. If Vanessa somehow learned them, we would know exactly how information traveled. For a girl, I chose Senna. It sounded soft and botanical, but in medicine it was a well-known stimulant laxative. For a boy, I chose Colus, the brand name of a stool softener. Grant laughed so hard he had to pull into a gas station. "You're going to name our fake children after constipation medicine? Only if my mother keeps the secret." 3 days later, I visited Mom alone. Over coffee, I lowered my voice and told her we had chosen names but weren't ready to announce them. "Senna for a girl," I said. "Colus for a boy." She repeated them carefully. "Those are unusual. We love them. Please don't tell anyone." Not even Caleb. Mom placed a hand over her heart. "I promise." 9 days later, Vanessa appeared on our porch carrying baked ziti. Caleb stood behind her with the children. "We decided the 2 pregnant women in this family should stop acting like enemies," Vanessa said brightly. "I brought dinner. I didn't trust her." But Lily was already hugging me, and Owen was asking Grant whether they could finish the birdhouse in our garage. I let them in. After dinner, Caleb and Grant took the children outside. Vanessa insisted on cleaning the kitchen. "Go sit down," she told me. "You need to rest." I watched her fill the kettle. My prenatal vitamins were on the counter beside the coffee maker. She opened 3 cabinets, supposedly looking for tea. Then she asked where we kept honey. Even though she had used it during previous visits, something about her movements bothered me, but suspicion without evidence can make every gesture look sinister. When they left, Vanessa hugged me and glanced at the vitamin bottle. "Take care of that baby," she said. A week later, my mild nausea became relentless. I vomited through the morning and grew dizzy at work. Then the cramps began. My obstetrician, Dr. Patel, brought me in for an ultrasound. The baby's heartbeat was strong, and nothing obvious looked wrong. "Some pregnancies are harder than others," she said. "But given your history, call immediately if you have bleeding or worsening pain." 3 nights later, I woke with cramps, so severe I couldn't stand upright. Grant drove me to the emergency department. Maya was working and got me into an exam room quickly. I stared at the ultrasound monitor until the technician located the heartbeat, still there. The doctor diagnosed a threatened miscarriage and sent me home with strict instructions to rest, hydrate, and return if the bleeding increased. For 2 days, Grant handled everything. On Sunday evening, I sat at the kitchen table to refill my weekly pill organizer. When I poured out the prenatal capsules, one rolled into the light. It was blank. The capsules from that manufacturer were normally printed with a small identification code. I knew because I had taken them for months, and because nurses are trained to verify medications before administering them. I searched the side pocket of my work bag and found a capsule from the previous bottle. I had carried it loose as a backup. The old capsule was stamped. The one from the kitchen bottle was not. They were nearly identical in color and size, but they were not the same medication. I put on disposable gloves. I photographed both capsules, the bottle, its label, the lot number, and the remaining pills. Then I placed everything in separate bags, marked the date and time, and locked them inside the cedar box. Grant stood behind me, reading the labels. "Who had access to that bottle?" "You, Mom, and Vanessa." His face hardened. "I'm calling Caleb." "No, she may have poisoned you. And if we accuse her before we know, she'll cry, deny it, and destroy whatever is left." He paced to the door. "Grant, I need you to trust me. Evidence first." He stopped with his hand on the knob. After a long moment, he stepped away. The next morning, I called Dr. Patel in the pharmacy. The pharmacist confirmed there had been no recall, no manufacturer change, and no reports of blank capsules from that lot. The bottle had been sealed when I purchased it, and I had opened it myself. Dr. Patel told me not to consume anything else from it and documented my symptoms. Maya helped me locate an independent accredited laboratory that accepted properly documented samples from private individuals. I paid for preliminary testing, knowing police would need their own analysis if a crime had occurred. Then I called the Columbus Division of Police. Detective Marisol Bennett met us in a small interview room. She had silver threaded through her dark hair and the patient expression of someone who preferred facts to performances. She listened as I explained the 3 stolen names, the pregnancy, the dinner, Vanessa's time alone in the kitchen, and the altered capsules. When I finished, she closed her notebook. "You've preserved the bottle better than most people would. But I need to be clear. A history of emotional cruelty does not prove she tampered with medication. I understand. We'll submit the original bottle to the state crime laboratory. From this point forward, don't handle it, don't confront anyone, and don't discuss the investigation." She asked who had entered our house since I filled the prescription. The list was painfully short: Grant, my mother, Caleb, the children. Vanessa waiting became its own form of punishment. I continued attending Sunday dinners because Detective Bennett didn't want Vanessa alerted. I sat across from her while she cut Claire's food into careful pieces and reminded Owen to say, please. She wasn't cruel every minute. That was part of what made her believable. She could be patient with her children, charming with strangers, and attentive to Caleb. Then she would look at me and ask, "Are your new vitamins treating you better?" I kept my expression neutral. 2 weeks later, the private laboratory called. Their screening found no prenatal nutrients in the blank capsules. Instead, they contained concentrated herbal compounds associated with uterine contractions, along with an unsafe amount of preformed vitamin A. The state laboratory later confirmed the essential findings. Dr. Patel read the report and immediately increased my monitoring. "You stopped taking them in time," she said. "The baby looks stable. But those capsules could explain the cramping and bleeding." That evening, I stood beside the flowers along our back fence. 3 pregnancies had ended despite every precaution. This time, someone may have tried to manufacture a 4th loss and let me believe my body had failed again. Detective Bennett obtained records through the proper legal process. She didn't tell me every detail, but she asked more questions about Vanessa's access to our house, online shopping habits, and whether she had keys. Then officers executed a search warrant at Caleb and Vanessa's home. Caleb called me from a truck stop outside Indianapolis. He was a regional freight driver and had been halfway through a route when Detective Bennett reached him. "They took her laptop," he said. "They searched the bathroom and the garage." "Rachel, what is happening?" I sat on the stairs while Grant waited nearby. The capsules in my vitamin bottle had been replaced. "With what?" I told him. His breathing changed. "You think Vanessa did it?" "The police are investigating. She's pregnant. She wouldn't do that to another pregnant woman." I closed my eyes. "I hope you're right." The search produced empty gelatin capsules, a capsule-filling tray, leftover powders matching the substances found in my bottle, and packaging connected to online purchases made weeks before Vanessa visited my home. Investigators also recovered deleted search history about miscarriage-inducing herbs, prenatal capsule markings, and symptoms that might be mistaken for natural pregnancy complications. The district attorney's office approved charges after reviewing the laboratory reports, purchase records, search results, and documented access window. Vanessa was not arrested immediately. Because she was pregnant, had no criminal history, and was not considered likely to flee, her attorney arranged for her to surrender the following Monday. Before that happened, she insisted on holding her baby shower. Mom called me Friday night. "I think you should stay home." "Why?" "Everyone is upset. Caleb barely speaks. Vanessa says the police misunderstood everything." "Do you believe her?" Mom hesitated. "I don't know what to believe." "You believed I was overreacting about the names. That was different." "It was the beginning." Mom lowered her voice. "She told me the powders were for a cleansing tea. And the empty capsules? She says she bought them for homemade supplements. The filling tray? No answer. Then she said the words she had used for 6 years. "Please, Rachel, just keep the peace until the baby is born." Peace would have been my vitamins staying untouched. I ended the call. The shower invitation promised a grand name reveal. That alone told me Vanessa had taken the bait. Caleb had seen a receipt from a party printing company for a banner beginning with the letter S. I didn't need more confirmation. Against Grant's advice, I decided to attend. The criminal case would proceed regardless of anything said at the party. I wasn't going to interfere with evidence or disclose confidential police material. But the stolen names belonged to my history, and I had every right to explain the test I had designed. I printed a photograph of the stamped and blank capsules. I added the independent laboratory report I had paid for and a page from a hospital medication guide defining Senna. Then I placed everything in a plain folder. Mom's backyard was crowded when we arrived. Folding chairs covered the lawn, pastel balloons framed the patio, and a banner hung folded between two maple trees. Vanessa wore a white maternity dress. She moved through the guests, accepting compliments with one hand resting above her belly. If she was afraid of Monday, she hid it well. The children ran to me. Lily wrapped both arms around my waist. Owen pulled Grant toward the garage to discuss birdhouses, and Claire raised her hands until I picked her up. I loved them without qualification. Their mother's choices did not belong to them. At 3 o'clock, Vanessa tapped her glass. Everyone gathered near the gift table. "This little girl is coming into a family full of history," she began. "We wanted her to have a name that was completely her own. Something rare. Something no one else had thought of." Her gaze settled on me. The name came to me in a dream. She pulled a ribbon. The banner dropped open. Senna rose. Applause broke out across the yard. Mom clapped twice before freezing. Vanessa stood beneath the glittering letters, watching me instead of the guests. I waited until the applause faded. "Where did you hear that name?" I asked. Her smile widened. "I just told you. I dreamed it." "That's interesting." A few people looked between us. "I invented it 8 weeks ago," I continued. "I told it to one person as a test." Mom lowered herself into a chair. Vanessa gave a small laugh. "Rachel, thousands of people are named Senna, maybe. But the boy name I paired with it was Colas." Aunt Sharon frowned. "Like the stool softener?" "Yes." Someone near the cake table coughed to cover a laugh. I opened the folder and placed the medication guide on the table. Senna is also a laxative. I chose both names because I needed to find out whether private information I gave Mom was still reaching Vanessa. Heads turned toward my mother. Mom stared at her hands. "I only told her because she asked. I didn't think she would use it." Vanessa's smile tightened. "We found the name separately, in a dream, in a baby book. I don't remember. Pregnancy brain. You used Lily after Mom learned I had named my first baby Lily. You used Owen after I named my second baby Owen. You used Claire after Mom found the cedar box containing the name of my third baby. Now you've announced a fourth name that I deliberately created and gave only to Mom." Caleb stepped out from the side of the house. I hadn't noticed him arrive. "Vanessa," he said, "is that true?" She looked at him, and for the first time her confidence slipped. "Their names. She doesn't own them." "No," I said. "But you knew what they meant." Vanessa turned toward the guests. "This is exactly what she does. She turns every happy event into a memorial for pregnancies that ended before anyone even knew about them." Nobody came to her defense. I placed the photograph of the capsules beside the medication guide, and when names were no longer enough, you went into my kitchen. Caleb closed his eyes. Vanessa pointed at me. "That has nothing to do with this party." "It has everything to do with it. You came to my house pretending we should celebrate together. While I sat in the next room, you replaced my prenatal vitamins with blank capsules. 10 days later, I was in the emergency room bleeding." "That's a lie. The laboratory results are here. The police have the original bottle. They found the filling equipment and remaining ingredients in your house." Her face changed then, not into remorse but calculation. She looked around for the person most likely to rescue her. "Diane, tell her to stop." Mom lifted her eyes. "Did you take those names from her?" Vanessa blinked. It was the first time my mother had asked her directly. "Why are we still talking about names?" "Because I gave them to you," Mom said. "Every time Rachel trusted me, I gave you something that wasn't mine to share." "Did you choose them because you knew they would hurt her?" Vanessa's voice sharpened. "Your family treated her losses like funerals. Flowers, boxes, anniversaries. Then I gave you actual grandchildren, and somehow I was still standing behind babies who never lived. Caleb stepped closer. Those were my sister's children. They were miscarriages. They were her children. Vanessa's composure finally broke. I was tired of hearing about them. I was tired of watching everyone protect Rachel as if she were the only woman who had ever suffered. I gave this family 3 healthy children. I made birthdays and holidays and memories. But she could open that wooden box and suddenly the whole room belonged to her. I kept my voice low. So you decided to put another photograph in it. Her eyes snapped toward me. That look answered more clearly than any confession could have. Caleb saw it too. He walked backward as if distance might change what he had understood. Vanessa grabbed her purse from a chair. I'm leaving. No one tried to stop her. At the gate, she turned toward me. You always wanted them to choose you. No, I said. I wanted them to stop asking me to disappear so you could feel secure. She left without another word. Her attorney accompanied her when she surrendered Monday morning. The legal process took months, not days. There were hearings, expert reports, negotiations, and delays surrounding the birth of her daughter. The evidence did not depend on what happened at the shower. Investigators had the altered capsules, matching substances recovered from her home, purchase records, internet searches, and proof that she had been alone beside my medication. Vanessa eventually pleaded guilty to felony assault and tampering with a consumer product. The judge imposed a prison sentence but allowed a short delay for delivery and medical recovery. The baby went home from the hospital with Caleb under a temporary family court plan. Caleb filed for divorce. He also gave up long-distance routes and accepted lower-paying local work so he could be home each night. For the first several months, Grant and I helped with all 4 children while Caleb completed parenting evaluations and reorganized his life. The baby did not keep the name Senna. Caleb named her Rose. Mom came to my house one Tuesday carrying a casserole. I almost didn't open the door. I was wrong, she said from the porch. Not only about Vanessa, about what I did to you. I folded my arms. She continued without crying. Which mattered because tears had ended too many conversations in our family. You trusted me with Lily's name, and I treated it like news. Then I did the same thing with Owen and Claire. When you objected, I made you responsible for everyone else's comfort. Yes, I don't expect you to forgive me today. Good. She nodded, absorbing it. I'd like to help with the children, if you'll let me. One afternoon a week, I said. No unannounced visits. No sharing information about my pregnancy, my medical care, or this house. I understand. You'll have to prove that. She did. Every Tuesday, Mom came over. She folded laundry, packed out lunches, and learned that an apology was not a key that reopened every locked door. It was only a request to stand on the porch while trust was rebuilt. My daughter was born in October, healthy, furious, and loud enough to be heard halfway down the maternity floor. We named her Autumn. No one knew until Grant filled out the birth certificate paperwork and I called Mom from the hospital. She repeated the name softly and said only, "She's beautiful." The house became crowded over the next year. Caleb's children spent many afternoons with us, and Rose stayed overnight whenever his schedule required it. Grant converted his workshop into 2 small bedrooms and built cubbies along the hallway. Because 5 children could turn 1 pair of shoes into an emergency. One evening, Lily followed me to the garden along the back fence. She was 7 then, old enough to read the painted stones beneath the flowers. Lily, Claire. She looked from the stones to me. Why do the flowers have our names? I sat beside her in the grass. Before you were born, I had 3 babies who couldn't stay. Those were their names. She considered this seriously. So, there were 2 Lilies? Yes. Did my mom know? I chose my words carefully. She did. Lily traced the edge of the stone with 1 finger. Is it bad that I have her name? No, sweetheart. Nothing about you is bad. Do you get sad when people call me? Sometimes I remember her. But I also think about you. A name can hold more than one kind of love. She picked a white blossom and placed it beside the stone. This one can be hers, she said. Then she ran across the yard because Owen had turned on the sprinkler without permission. I remained beside the flowers, with Autumn sleeping against my chest and the noise of the other children pouring from the house. For years, I believed keeping the peace meant swallowing every injury before anyone else had to look at it. I know better now. Silence does not create peace when it protects the person causing harm. It only gives that person room to continue. My 3 lost babies were real. The daughter breathing against my shoulder was real. The boundaries around our home were real too. Vanessa had taken names because she believed possession could make her secure. In the end, the names remained, but the control she had built around them disappeared. What she tried to turn into trophies became part of a family story she could no longer dictate. When Grant called everyone inside for dinner, 5 children came running. I rose carefully with Autumn in my arms and followed them toward the house. Behind us, the lilies, blue salvia, and white roses moved together along the fence. Separate roots, separate histories, sharing the same light.